So, can you guys hear me? Hey, Kate, is that video working? Okay, it's not. Okay, that's okay. I do want to show that picture though, Kate, that's on that zip drive. If you want to show that picture. I think this is just a perfect time of the year. And I do apologize. I was going to tuck my shirt in. Melissa said, no, it looked fine. Then I got up here and I thought, no, I need to tuck it in. And then I realized that I have a black belt on with brown shoes. So that's why my shirt is not tucked in. Because I just thought, okay, you always need to, your belt and your shoes need to kind of match. That's how I always feel. I do have my pink socks on now. They have kitty cats on them. I am going to share today, we're going to talk about missions. We're going to talk about our mission. Not only missions as individuals, but missions as a church, as believers. So basically, you know, when we talk about missions, a lot of people think, oh, well, they're going to ask for money. Okay, they're going to talk about, you know, they need money, they need money. It does cost a lot to do missions. I'm going to move this to my back pocket. So basically, what is missions? To be called by God to reach a people group and to introduce them to Jesus. I mean, that's really what missions is. You're meeting the needs, you're loving on them, you're telling them about Jesus. And I'm going to talk a little bit about missions that I've done, and that Melissa, Thad, and Hannah's went on with us. I actually have, this is the country of India. This is where I actually got the opportunity to go on 2 short-term mission trips to India. We were in northern India. We were actually all the way up here in this little purple area. This is Pakistan. I actually have been up to the foothills of the Himalayas. And they say foothills, but they're huge mountains. Dad, I don't need that right now. Thank you. So I've been to India twice. I've been to the country of Hungary once. That was like a work detail is what it ended up being. We cleared brush for about 6 days, which was a very humbling and physically challenging because we went during the summer and it was very hot. But that's what they needed, and that's what we did. So, and when it comes to missions, we always think of like Lottie Moon, William Carey, Jim Elliott, and his wife Elizabeth. Actually, Melissa got the opportunity to meet Elizabeth Elliott when she was at SBU and got to talk to her. So that was a great experience for her. But when it comes to missions, you know, we always think about Lottie Moon, and you know that's the offering we're doing now. And I learned a little bit when I was reading a little bit about Lottie Moon. She was not always the great Christian person when she was younger. She was, one group called her actually devilish. I guess she was pretty wild and anti-Christian and just was not. It wasn't until when she got to college that she, you know, dedicated her life to Christ and really, and in the South, she actually grew up, her family was very rich. Her uncle bought a house that Thomas Jefferson had originally owned that was built by one of the friends of George Washington. So I'll let you know how far this goes back. Okay? And so she was actually very wealthy. She was actually the first female, like one of the first females in the South to get a master's degree. Very highly intelligent. She was actually only 4 feet 3 inches tall. So she was a pretty tiny person. And actually, her sister went over actually to China before she did, a few years before. Her sister was actually a doctor. Okay, she was 32 years old when she went to China. She sailed. Okay, so again, back then they had to take boats, and you know it took some time. So for 39 years, Lottie Moon labored chiefly in the Taocheng area. People feared and rejected her, but she refused to leave. The aroma of her fresh baked cookies drew people to her house. She adopted a traditional Chinese dress, and she learned China language and customs. Lottie didn't just serve the people in China, she identified with them. And I think that's what made her such a great missionary. She was constantly writing letters back to you know, different Christian organizations, the Southern Baptist Convention. Finally, a group of women in the Southern Baptist Convention in 1888 organized and helped collect $3,315 to send 3 missionaries over to China. And that's all it took. I mean, back then it was a lot of money. It's a lot of money today, but that's all it took. So one of her quotes was why should we not do something that would prove that we are really in earnest in claiming to be followers of Him who, through He was rich for our sake because poor. So Lottie Moon was, to me, was a great example of like a true missionary, willing to give herself for a group of people. So in the New Testament, originally when I was thinking about missions, I was actually have been praying about, this started with me personally. A few months ago, I've been praying about, God, I'd really like to go back overseas somewhere, somewhere. And so I've really been praying a lot about missions. I was thinking I was going to get to go to El Salvador, but I'm not going to be able to go because of when the timing is. So I really began, and I'm still praying about where God might lead me. But in the New Testament is where we're going to be. When I started thinking about missions, we always think about like Paul. We think of Paul and all his missionary journeys, and that's kind of what I started looking at. So then I started doing some studying, and I started backing up, and I said, this really started with Jesus. Jesus being like the first missionary is what the example is. So it begins with Jesus, who was sent here to reveal the Father. In John 1, 6 through 8, there was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to bear witness about the light, that he might believe through him. He was not the light, but he came to bear witness about the light. So Jesus came to reveal himself, but he was really revealing his Father. John 14:9, Jesus said to him, Have I been with you so long, and you still do not know me, Philip? Whoever has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, show us the Father? Jesus also came to glorify God. And that's what we as believers need to do. We need to advance the gospel, glorify God, and advance the gospel. John 13:31. When he had gone out, Jesus said, Now is the Son of Man glorified, and God is glorified in him. So when you saw Jesus, you saw God. And he was there to glorify God. Amen. To bring the kingdom of God on earth is to make God's love and mercy known to the lost. That's why he came. Is to continue that bond, that connection, that personal relationship. That's what makes, I think, the Christian faith so amazing. It's about a personal thing. Right. It's something that you or I can have with my Maker, with my Heavenly Father. I don't have to go to a priest, or I don't have to go to a synagogue. I don't have to bring an animal. Could you imagine if we all brought an animal today? Some of us might have brought a dog or a cat, hopefully not, but we would have all brought a specific animal based on our status. Some of us would have brought bulls, and it would have just been a mess. But no, we just need to go to him daily, and we need to worship him. Right. Whatever we need, whatever. And what's amazing? We always tell students, always tell adults, man, if you got a problem, go tell it to God. And I hear this, that, well, he already knows. Yeah, but he loves to hear it. He loves to hear it. Okay, he came to seek and save the lost. Luke 19:10, for the Son of Man. Hey, Thad, can you give me a drink of water? Just give me a styrofoam cup, please. I forgot to grab me one. Thank you. Luke 19:10, for the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. He came to seek us out, to find us. When we lose something, we go nuts, don't we? You lose something in the house, it's in the house, it's here. You just saw it the other day, and you go nuts finding it. Especially if it's something of value. If it's something, and it's usually something that, and I remember several times, my mom was really good about putting stuff up and not ever being able to find it. Okay? Because she would say, hey, I want to hang on to this. I think sometimes she probably threw stuff away by accident. Because that's just how we do sometimes. That kind of happened not too long ago. We got this little dollhouse for Hannah, and it's actually several years old, but it came with all this little furniture. A lot of the furniture takes batteries and makes noise, so we didn't put the batteries in there. So Hannah won't know until later. And so Melissa gave her a little bit of furniture. But we cannot find that box of furniture. You know, you'd think, she said it's only in a box like this. I think it got thrown away. So we've looked everywhere. Our house isn't that big. I don't know where else it would be. But Christ came to seek and to find us and to save us. While Jesus, thank you, Dad. Did you put your finger in it? Okay. While Jesus' ministry was primary for Jews, Jesus also met the needs of non-Jews. He healed the daughter of a woman of Canaan and praised the woman for her faith. Matthew 15:21 through 29. And Jesus went away and withdrew to the district of Tyre and Sidon. And behold, a Canaanite woman from the region came out and was crying, "Have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David. My daughter is severely oppressed by a demon." But he did not answer her a word. And his disciples came and begged him, saying, "Send her away, for she is crying out after us." He answered, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came and knelt before him, saying, "Lord, help me." And he answered, "It is not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." She said, "Lord, yes, Lord. Yet even the dogs eat crumbs from the master that fall from the master's table." And then Jesus answered her, "O woman, great is your faith. Be it done for you as you desire." And her daughter was healed instantly. So Jesus was testing this woman. This is what this scripture is about. When you first read it, it's like, man, he called her a dog. And that was a total insult during this time. If you called somebody a dog, I mean, it was like, that was lowly. I mean, you might as well just call them something even worse. You called them a dog, but he said no. She said, "Aren't I even worthy to eat crumbs from my master's table?" And he said, you know, because of your faith. He also healed the servant of a Roman centurion. Matthew 8:15 through 13. When he entered Capernaum, a centurion came forward to him, appearing to him. "Lord, my servant is lying paralyzed at home, suffering terribly." And he said to him, "I will come and heal him." But the centurion replied, "Lord, I am not worthy to come under your roof. But only say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I too am a man under authority with soldiers under me. And I say to the one, go, and he goes, and to another, come, and he comes, and to my servant, do this, and he does it." Then Jesus heard this. He marveled and said to those who followed him, "Truly I tell you, with no one in Israel have I found such faith. I tell you, many will come from east and west and recline at the table with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven, while the sons of kingdom will be thrown into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." And to the centurion Jesus said, "Go, let it be done for you as you had believed." And the servant was healed at the very moment. So this was a great example. Not only a centurion, a Roman centurion, he had 100 men underneath him. And kind of what I was studying was, they assumed that most of them were there. Because wherever he went, they went. I mean, it was a group, it was a platoon. And so here was a great example of someone truly having faith in Jesus. Now when he made this statement, when Jesus said, "Hey, I'll go," and he said, no, just say the word, you know, you can't come under my roof. That was a Jewish thing. If a Jew would go into the house of a non-Jew, they were considered ceremonially unclean for 7 days until they could they'd go to the temple and have to go through the process to become clean again. So this was a great example of someone truly having faith in Jesus, and Jesus being willing to meet that need. He initiated a conversation with a Samaritan woman. which led to her conversion and the conversion of her entire community. And basically, it's the entire chapter of John 4, is this whole process. But this is a Samaritan woman, and this is John 4, 7 through 15. A woman from Samaria came to draw water. Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink," for his disciples had gone away into the city to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "How is it that you, a Jew, ask for water from me, a woman from Samaria? For Jews had no dealing with Samaritans." Jesus answered her, If you knew the gift of God, and who is this that is saying to you, 'Give me a drink,' you would ask him, and he would give you living water." The woman said to her, "Sir, you have nothing to draw the water with, and the well is deep. Where do you get that living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob? He gave us the well and drank from it himself, and did his sons and his livestock." Jesus said to the father, "Everyone who drinks of the water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks of the water that I will give him will never be thirsty again. The water that I will give him will become in him a spring of water welling up to eternal life." The woman said to her, "Sir, give me the water so that I will not be thirsty or have to come and draw here again." Okay, we all know the story. Samaritan woman, she's there in the middle of the day because she didn't come in the morning when it wasn't as hot because of who she was. Because she basically had like 5 husbands. Again, he goes on, go get your husband. And she's like, well, the guy I'm with, I'm not married to. And so Jesus knew all that. But it didn't matter to him. Okay, and first off, she wanted to know why a Jewish man was talking to her. For one, she was a woman. 2, she was a Samaritan. And that was a big no-no. Just wasn't done. There was divisions. People groups just did not communicate in any simple way. So Jesus, went on and just, basically she goes back to her community and told her. So because of this one encounter, her entire community, became followers of Christ. Basically you go on, you read the rest of the gospel. It talks about Jesus' life, all his great. I'm going to kind of skip ahead. This is probably going to be a 2-parter, so not next week, but the week after. If I get to preach again, John, I'm going to talk about missions again. So Jesus made it clear that his mission was to continue after he ascended to heaven. Okay? It was our job as followers to go. Okay? It's very easy. The Gospels and the Acts contain an account of his directions to his people to go to all the world to make disciples, baptizing them and preaching the good news. John read that verse, the Great Commission, 28:19 through 20. It's also listed in Mark 16:15 through 16, Luke 24:26 through 49, John 20:21 and 22, and Acts 1:8. The Commission made a dramatic change in the emphasis of missions. Okay? Instead of looking for foreigners to come to Jerusalem, this is what was taking place. Foreigners would come to Jerusalem, and that's how they would hear about Jesus or follow Jesus or see Jesus. The church mission is to go into the world, not wait for the world to come to it. All believers, all of us, are called to go. In one way, shape, or form. We, the church, are to cross all barriers, to reach out to all ethnic groups, clans, tribes, social classes, and cultures. I told you, Melissa and I, when I asked her some, I said, hey, what about some of our mission stuff? And we'll never forget the first time we went to India, okay? We'd made a commitment to go to India. Now, for us to go to India, it was like $3,500 a person. Okay, your plane ticket is your huge chunk. Because India is literally on the other side of the world. I mean, literally. And so we sent out letters to get to fundraise. About that time, we had a house burned down. We lost everything. And a lot of people are like, are you still going to go to India? I'm like, why would we not go to India? And so we continued to make that commitment. And during this process, we began to kind of draw up plans. We had a friend of Melissa's dad's, who was an architect, who basically said, hey, I'll draw your plans up for free. I had plenty of people in the ministry said, hey, we will build you your house for you. You know, all you got to do is supply the materials, and we'll supply all the laborers. Man, we want to help you. So it was going to be a nice house that we were going to build. And then when we walked off the plane in India, it was like we were in an Indiana Jones movie. You guys have seen the Indiana Jones movie? You know, that takes place in like the 30s. That's what it looked like. And let me tell you, you were not ready for the smell. Okay? It was unique. I don't know what it was. Do you? No. I mean, I don't know what it was. And it was amazing that the first time we stayed in the hotel, because every time we always stay in the hotel, we eat in restaurants. We're encouraged not to eat out where we're ministering because of the different bacteria that they have would probably kill us. Okay, and so we stayed in this hotel, and it was amazing. I don't know how many times I'd look out the window and there'd be a cow walking right down the street. You know, I mean, you're in a city, and there'd be a cow out there walking around. Not a healthy looking cow either. I mean, just a real scrawny looking thing, or he'd be eating out the garbage or whatever. But it was just a different culture. It was a different community. And if we wanted to go somewhere, we could rent her. And what was funny was Melissa and I were very healthy. I'm not going to say, you know, I'm very big, but Melissa and I were both, we took a rickshaw, and we had this really small Indian guy pull us on a rickshaw. And when we got there, he waited. They said, oh, they'll wait, and then he'll give you a ride back. We thought, okay, cool. And so first off, both of us barely fit in the rickshaw, okay? It was not an American rickshaw that we would think. It kind of reminds me of like when you fly on an airplane and you get in there like, okay, these were not built for Americans. These were built for, I don't know, kids. And so he waited. We were there a couple hours, and then we rode back. And they said, don't pay them a lot of extra, because then they'll just hang around. And so I think it cost us like 20 cents for the rickshaw ride there and back. I mean, it was like, okay, that guy earned his money today. Okay, he earned it a lot. And you know, you'd see beggars. You would literally see people begging. You'd see people with kids. And then we learned some of our interpreters would stand. They said, okay, see that guy over there? And we're like, yeah. And they said, he's kind of like, he's kind of pimping people out. He has people that work for him. And they said, this lady comes up and has a baby, you know. He said, that's probably not even her baby. It's a baby they rented, is what they do. Or, you know, you actually see people, where we were at, they actually had a leper colony still over there. The leprosy is still a disease today. And so they actually had leper colonies. So you'd see people with leprosy, and, you know, begging. We did actually pay some people. Probably the biggest scam that you'd run into, people would want to shine your shoes. Okay, they'd want to shine your shoes. Well, they'd have a scam. They'd have somebody walk by and like throw like cow manure on your shoes. So then you need to get your shoes clean, you know. So it's kind of a scam. And I tell them, they kept on, I'm like, this is tennis shoes. You don't shine tennis shoes, you know. Or we go out, we do our ministering at night. And so we go out, we go to an area and they put up a little tent. They play, you know, they play worship music in their language, and we give the gospel. I don't know how many times I've preached or presented the gospel or taught in front of a group of people. My second trip, my interpreter actually told me, you did not talk long enough. And I'm like, really? He goes, yes, we want to hear more. It's like, okay. So my second trip, I did an 8-day revival service at an existing church. They rented a Hindu community center, which was not much bigger than like our youth room. Okay, that included the sound system, which was, it had 2 bare wires that plugged into 2 holes in the wall. I mean, that is it. And they put 1 speaker in the room and one outside and turned it all the way up because they wanted everybody to hear it. And we took flannel boards for you people that are my age or greater. I don't want to, you know. And so, you remember flannel boards? Okay? They still make those. We'd buy flannel boards and we'd get them all set up, and then we'd fold them and put them in our luggage. And then we'd leave them for them. They were excited to get flannel boards. You know, and I'll never forget that you would go out and talk to people, and they're just excited for you to talk to them. And we met people. And I remember this one time we were out, and this lady was so excited, and this is what Melissa shared with me this morning. I said, what was the story that really spoke to you when we were in India? And she said, you remember that one day We were out. It was actually, I think, daytime. And this lady was so excited to show us what she did for a job. And she was so excited. Her job was to collect the cow manure and mix it with straw and make dung cakes, and that's what they used to burn with. But she was excited to show us what she did for a living. She was proud of what she did. And you talk about feeling humbled and feeling unworthy. And we go to these little, we do these little revivals, we do these little services, and then we pack up and go to someone's house. And we do it all over again. We do that 2 or 3 times a night. And there'd be people crowding in, trying to stick their heads in the window and just wanted to hear. It really brought the Bible to life. If you go to a third world country and you're sharing the gospel, and people are just packed in because they want to hear. A lot of them want to know what's going on, or why are these white people here, or what's going on. We want to see. But they don't. When they figure out what you're talking about, they don't leave. You know, I had the opportunity on my second trip to meet the Hindu community leader for this town we were in. And so through my interpreter, we were talking about different biblical things, but basically we just agreed to disagree. I mean, we didn't argue, we didn't fight. We just agreed to disagree because it really wasn't going anywhere. He knew I wasn't going to budge, and I knew he wasn't going to budge. But we kind of built kind of a little bit of a rapport. Now, my interpreter for my second trip, wore polyester leisure suits, okay? Because that's what he was given. We ship clothes to third world country, and they wear it. And so he had this amazing one. I thought it was just phenomenal. It was like a navy blue with orange stitching all over it. I mean, man, this guy stood out, and he looked good. Okay? This guy had an 8th grade education and literally had the entire Bible memorized. You talk about feeling put to shame. Here I was, an American missionary, coming over to share the gospel with your people group. And you know the Bible more than I do. And he kept telling me, he goes, I want to come to America. I said, no, you don't. I said, we'll ruin you. I said, we'll make you soft. You know, and he was actually translating the Bible by hand to reach another people group in his community that had a different dialect. He literally was writing it out by hand. You know, I hate sitting down writing checks to pay bills. You know, because after about 10 minutes, I'm like, oh, my hand hurts. You know, but he was literally writing it out by hand. He was excited that we were there. He was excited. They had a family that wanted to feed us. And I'm like, I don't know. And I was working with a group of students from Hamilton Grand College in Missouri, from Hamilton, Missouri. And I told the kids, I said, man, I don't know. They said, man, we just need to pray. I said, okay. So finally I told them, yes, you guys could feed us. So this family volunteered to feed us, okay? Which meant that they fed us and then they watched us eat. Because they wanted to feed us. They didn't want to eat with us. They didn't want to fellowship, as we call it. They wanted to feed us, okay? And let me tell you, praise God, none of us got sick. Okay, now we drank our bottles of water. We didn't drink their water. But whatever we had, it was hot. And we were sweating. And it was like 30 degrees out. And we were just sweats just pouring off of us, just keeping us warm. And man, we were just so excited that we were just not sick. You know, you can always go, when you go overseas, you can do everything you could possibly do to not get sick, and you're going to get sick. Because you're going to catch a bug. You brush your teeth, you go to India, you take like 10 toothbrushes with you. Because if you forget to put it under the water in the bathroom, you can't brush your teeth with that because it's been in the water. Okay? So you got to think, you're in the shower, and you get water in your mouth? You can't do that. You got to keep your mouth shut while you're in the shower. You get water in your mouth, you're going to get sick. Okay? So we, the church, are to cross all barriers, to reach all people, ethnic groups, clans, tribes, social classes. Let me give you guys some numbers. There's 7 billion people on the earth as of right now. 7 billion people. There's 16,600 people groups. Out of that 16,600, 6,700 are unreached people groups. That doesn't mean we can't physically reach them. That means that we have no missionaries for them. That means we have no Bibles in their language. We have no way to communicate to them. There is 6,700 unreached people groups. That number of people in those groups, that is 3 billion people. There's 3 billion people that are unreached in our world. That is actually 40% of our population. That is a huge number. That are people that are unreached with the gospel. You know, when I started, it's easy to look up numbers now because you just Google it. And I was blown away at that number. To kind of give you an idea, I was looking at cities in the United States. New York's like the biggest. It's like 8 billion people. I don't know. It's like 8 million, something like that. But 3 billion people. Houston, the population of Houston, Texas, is 2,359,480 people. So think of Houston, Texas. Houston, Texas is actually one of the fastest growing because it's not. New York is landlocked. It can't go any higher. I mean, I guess it can, but Houston just keeps going north, and they just kind of keep growing. To give you some other numbers, Beaver County, Oklahoma, population 5,317 in 2017. Can I give you some percentage? 36.4% is white. 6.8% is American Indian and Alaskan Native. 56.8% is Hispanic and other. So people groups are right here in our own backyard. They are brought right here to us. Last week I mentioned, we've got the IMB, we got the line going on, the IMB missionaries. And I actually looked up what it cost to support a missionary. Okay? To support like a single person is around $52,000 a year. When you have a family, it's even more. So it costs a lot. You got housing, you got food. Most of these missionaries, a lot of them don't have jobs while they're there because their job is to be a missionary. I had a friend of mine that I went to high school with that was a missionary in Papua New Guinea. And they weren't there very long because they really, really struggled with the language. When you get over in some of those areas, it almost doesn't sound like a language. It sounds like just sounds. You get over. And so one of the things that they live with the people. Okay, they would go fishing. Okay, what they would do, and John, I wouldn't even do this. I don't care how much I love fish. They would swim out in the ocean, and they would have a fish like on a line as bait, dragging behind them. And another fish would come up and grab that fish, and that's how they fished. Okay, there's no stinking way. You never know how big that fish is behind you. That's how they fished. And then they would grab that fish, and they would take it off, and they had a little, I don't know, like a little net they carried with them, and that's how they fished. Okay, one of the big things they had, okay, they actually had a washing machine. Okay, because if not, they would have to wash their clothes by hand, and they had to explain that the reason they would have a luxury like a washing machine is it would be so time-consuming to wash clothes by hand. I don't know if you guys ever washed clothes by hand. I did my second trip to India because our luggage did not show up. I actually it wasn't my first rodeo, so I actually had a couple changes of underclothes in my carry-on. So we just washed them out at night and then hung them over the banister outside the balcony window, which I thought, it's India, no one's really going to care. And so we would we'd hang that up. And so we finally got our luggage about 4 or 5 days later. We got it like at 3 in the morning. We all went down, we were excited to get our luggage. I couldn't even remember what I packed. And I packed snacks too. And my second trip, I didn't bring as many snacks because I figured out I kind of liked the food. One of my favorite places to go was the place called Hot Millions. And actually you go in, they'd have like a little arch. They were kind of trying to be like McDonald's. They kind of had a little arch on their little visors. And I'd get a chicken Kathy kebab, fries, and a Coke. The chicken Kathy kebab was a couple fried eggs with some grilled chicken mixed in it, put in a large tortilla shell, rolled up, fries and a Coke, and it was about $2 American. On a trip, I actually gained weight because I ate so much while I was there, because I learned that I love the food. But doing missions is so amazing. You never know where you're going to go, what you're going to do, what you're going to run into. And when it comes to missions, this is what I tell students and adults. That you need to be flexible, you need to be fluid. And the example I use, when you flush the toilet and it overflows, where does the water go? Wherever it wants to. Okay? And it just goes everywhere. So if you're going to be fluid, you need to be willing to go. Just go with the flow. Right now, during the Lighting Christmas offering, when Melissa was talking about Christmas, yes, we still have our lights up. Yes, we still have our tree up. We haven't had time to take it down. Actually, I think I came home last night and the Christmas lights were on. The inside ones, not the outside ones. I told her we could just leave them up and turn them on for other holidays, whatever. She said no. But one of the guys, there was a video called about On the Go, and it was a group of nomadic people. And he talks about they don't show his face, and he's talking about this people group and how about 11 times a year, they just totally take their house, they take it apart, they pack it up, and they take it with the herd. They go wherever the grazing lane is. They just go. And, he's there with them, and so they've learned they provide like water, they provide like hay, clothing, whatever. Well, we found out on Christmas break that this kid, and when I say kid, I just remember him as a kid, okay? He was one of my former students at the first church I served on staff. Malachi, you still upstairs?
Yep.
Okay. I'm not trying to offend you. This kid was about the size of Malachi, but about twice as tall. Okay, he was skinny, lanky, goofy, just a normal country kid when we first met him. He started doing missions when he was like in 7th and 8th grade. We went to Houston, Texas. He kind of fell in love with, just people. And this kid, and again, they don't show his face, they don't know his name because of security reasons. They just don't do that. So I'm not going to share his name. I'll try not to, please, try not to say his name. But he actually he was from Mooresville, Missouri, which is where Melissa's from, went to the same school. Ended up going to Southwest Baptist College. Continued to get his education, went to one of the seminaries, served in India for a while, or not India, China, and I do believe he's married and has some kids. But man, this kid is on fire for Jesus and loves this people group. He loves this group of people. And he had no idea when he was at that age what God was going to do in his life. He had no idea. But he was willing and he was obedient. He had a desire to see people come to Christ. And he was just such an amazing. The Great Commission is a mandate for all believers. It's a mandate for all of us. Christ has promised that he will be with the church until the end of the world. The early church, this is the church in Acts, was obedient. The gospel was presented. First in Jerusalem, and that's Acts 1 through 8. Then in Samaria, Acts 8 through 12. Finally, to all the world, Acts 13 through 28. Hey, Kate, can you put up that photograph for me?
It is.
Oh, hey, there it is. Hey, will you turn some of those lights up? Here's actually the picture. I couldn't get it to scan very good. I couldn't get it to... the best things about doing missions is meeting people. Is meeting just amazing people. People who are just willing to meet you, listen to you, and, I've never had anybody just flat out tell me no when it comes to sharing the gospel. I've had a lot of, I'll think about it, maybe. I've never had anybody actually say no. So this was actually on my second trip to India. This is a lady, and that's a little baby, just a few weeks old, or maybe 3 weeks old. And so we would go out, and we would do a revival service. And then, and again, when we have a revival service, they have chairs for us to sit on while they sit on a concrete floor when it's 30 degrees out. And then when we go to people's houses, then we pack up and they take the chairs to the house. Because you got to think about this. You're in India. They don't have a house like we have. They have like a room or a dwelling that has beds in it. That's what everybody sits on. And then while you're there, now over in India, they still drink hot tea like they did when they were occupied by Britain. And so you would go in, I don't know how many cups of tea you drink at night. By the time you get back, man, you were floating. And it was like the hot tea that usually had goat's milk in it. It's like a chai tea. It's really good. But man, it's burnt out. Everybody had metal cups because metal cups last forever. If you drop them, they're not going to break. Cups were so stinking hot, you couldn't even hang on to them. I mean, they were hot. And they're over there kind of sipping them a little bit, and then you start drinking them, and I'm never like a really, really hot kind of drink person. You can ask my family. Well, we'd go to someone's house, and then we would share the gospel. Somebody would share their testimony. We would just kind of do it several times a night. Okay, so one night, we would actually, I remember one time I met this kid, and he wanted to know who my favorite wrestler was. And all he could say, he didn't speak any English, but he could say WWE. And I told him, I said, I don't watch wrestling. Or you go to someone's house and they turn the TV on because they think that's what Americans do. And they would have one light and they'd have a TV. And so they would have TV over there. So we went to this house, and I say house, it's more like a room. And it's really cold that night. It's below 30 degrees. And so there we are sitting. She's sitting all bundled up. And her husband's there. And my interpreter and several people from the church and all of us students. And we're standing in this little bitty room. And they have like one light hanging down. Just one little bare bulb, barely putting out any light. And so my interpreter and this guy start talking. And my interpreter starts telling me this story. He said this couple have been married for like 16 years. Okay? And over there they still worship, in the Hindu religion, they worship like so many different gods that they're very open to Jesus because one more just in case. Okay? They worship over, I think it's around 1 million different gods. They have gods for everything. And so they have idols and they have all this stuff. So Jesus is one more, so we're good. So you go in the house, sometimes they still have idols, but this family didn't. So they've been married for like 16 years. And he said they kept trying all these different religions to have a baby, to have to start their family. And so this went on, and it wasn't until they both accepted Christ did she get pregnant and have that child. And I just thought, wow. That's an amazing story. I thought, wow. And they're talking, and some of you have heard this story. And my interpreter told me, he said, do you want to name the child? And I'm like, what? He said, do you want to name the child? I said, does it have a name? He said, no, not yet. Do you want to name him? And I kind of thought in my head, I kind of went, oh God. You know, I mean, what do you do when someone says, hey, you want to name my child? You know, out of all my best friends, no one's ever asked me to name their child. I don't know what the problem is. I don't know what's going on. And so just briefly, I said, oh God. And I said, Paul. And the interpreter, you know, talked back to him and said, Paul. And they all went, Paul. You know, and I just thought, man, I got to name a child. Not one of my children, a child. And I thought, when I originally told Melissa, I said, you know, I named him Britt Jr. And, you know, I just thought that'd be weird, a kid going around in India, you know, so that is another amazing thing when it comes to doing missions, is to hearing stories about people that God has done amazing things in their life. Dad, can you turn those lights back on? Thank you. You know, so here's this person, here's this lady, this family. It wasn't until they truly accepted Jesus, that they were willing to take that step, that God blessed them. Now, did God have to give them a child? No. That's not why they did it. They did it because God drew them. He drew them in. You know, we've had a lot of friends that's been to India, Africa, Romania. I actually had a friend of mine not too long ago. I was texting him and I said, what are you doing? He goes, I'm in Africa. I said, really, what are you doing? I'm getting ready to go to bed. You know, because there was such a huge time frame. And so we've got some friends that are serving here in the United States. This one couple, they're in Lincoln, Nebraska. We just have a lot of friends that have served and served to do in missions. So I want to challenge you as a church, as an individual, what is your mission field? You know, I had a pastor one time that says, most of us just love to go to Walmart. I mean, we really just love to go to Walmart. And you know, when you're in a kind of a small town, you see a lot of the same people work in Walmart. So he made his point when he went to Walmart. He said, I don't go to Walmart a lot. I would always look for the same cashier. He said, I got to begin to build a relationship. I thought, you know, that was neat. That was neat. So we did that. We met this lady, and we were living in Bolivar, and she would walk her dog kind of in her neighborhood. She lived not too far from us. Come to find out, she works at Walmart, and we still communicate with her today. And it's just that building that connection, building that friendship. You know, are we going to be known as a friendly church, or are we going to be known as a church of friends? You know, anybody can be friendly, but when it comes to being friends, it takes some effort. And as believers, I think we're called to be friends with people. You know, not only did Jesus want to reach people, he wanted to hang out with them. When you hang out with people, you hang out with your friends. You hang out with people you like. And I think not only did Jesus love people, he liked people. So I want to challenge you, what's your mission field? And you know, first off, it's our family. If there's people in your family, whether it's your kids, whether it's your parents, your aunts and uncles, if there's anybody in your family that doesn't know Jesus, and you do, it's your responsibility. It's your calling. It's your desire, should be your desire to see them come to know him. Okay, from there we need to expand out. It needs to go to our workplace. You know, think of people that might sit next to you or across from you or wherever. That is your mission field. God has placed you there for a reason. And you may think, well, I'm retired. Well, you volunteer somewhere? Well, not really. Well, you know, maybe you should. Find somewhere. If you don't want to volunteer, come volunteer at the church. We need lots of people. Especially on Wednesday nights. Especially for VBS. Right, Betty? We need lots of people. You know, that's one of the greatest things about student ministry. I always like involving just random people, because I want students to see more than just me all the time. I want them to see other Christians. It doesn't do any good for them to see me all the time. They need to see you. Doesn't matter how old you are, or how young, I didn't say old, but, or how young you are. How's that? How young you feel. Maybe you don't feel very young some days. You know. So I want to encourage you, and if it's your family, your workplace, your church, find your mission field. Find your ministry. Find your people group. You know, maybe it's something that you never actually went physically and left. Turpin went on a mission trip. We've got one, I'm going to do one in July. It's going to be right after VBS. We're going to go to Lawton, Oklahoma, and we're going to do ministry. I really don't know exactly what we're going to do yet, but we're going to do ministry. We're going to love on people. We're going to do a lot of work projects. So if you've never done one, and this isn't just for youth, they need adults, they need everybody. Okay, because think of those numbers that I gave you. There's 3 billion people that don't know Jesus. 3 billion. There's people in our own country. Maybe not so much here in Turpin, Oklahoma and Beaver County. But there are people in our own country that have never heard the name of Jesus. And that just blows my mind. Because I thought, you know, we're supposedly a Christian nation. And so, we're going to get ready to close. And we're going to have a time of invitation. And I thought, how do I close with this? Basically, if you've never accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and